Every night at exactly 2:13 a.m., someone knocked on my bedroom wall from the inside. My name is Ethan Carter, and after my divorce, I moved into an old house outside Portland. The rent was unbelievably cheap, which should have been my first warning. The landlord casually mentioned that the previous owner disappeared one night and was never found. I laughed it off at first. The house looked normal, just old and quiet. But every night, the walls creaked like someone was moving inside them. On the 8th night, I woke up suddenly at exactly 2:13 a.m. Knock, knock, knock. 3 slow taps came from the wall beside my bed. I sat frozen in the dark, trying to convince myself it was just old pipes. Then I heard scratching, slow fingernails dragging across wood. I pressed my ear against the wall, and a whisper softly said my name. Ethan. The next morning, I searched the outside of the house for animals or damage, but found nothing. I almost believed it was a nightmare. But the following night, at exactly 2:13 a.m., the sounds returned. This time they came from the ceiling. Something crawled directly above my bed while dust drifted onto my blanket. Then I heard heavy breathing above me. Breathing that didn't sound human. Terrified, I ran downstairs and stayed awake until sunrise. The next day, I asked my elderly neighbor about the house. Her face immediately turned pale. She told me the last owner constantly complained about hearing movement inside the walls. He believed something lived inside the house with him. A few weeks later, he vanished without a trace. Nobody ever found his body. I wanted to leave immediately, but I didn't have enough money. So that night, I locked every door, covered the vents, and tried to ignore the fear. At 2:13 a.m., the knocking started again, but this time it came from every wall around me. Knock, knock, knock. The entire house echoed like trapped hands were trying to escape from inside the walls. Suddenly, the power went out. The house fell into complete darkness. Then I heard footsteps upstairs. Slow, heavy footsteps. I grabbed my flashlight and aimed it toward the staircase. For one horrifying second, I saw a pale face peeking around the corner. It had huge black eyes and a smile stretched far too wide. The moment the light touched it, the figure disappeared. Then came the sound of running. Fast movement inside the walls circled around me. Scratching grew louder and more violent. Wood cracked behind my television. Suddenly, part of the wall burst open. Long gray fingers slowly pushed through the hole, followed by an arm twisted in unnatural directions. The creature dragged itself halfway out and stared directly at me. Its body looked horribly wrong, like every bone bent backward. Its mouth slowly opened wider than any human mouth could. Then, in a broken whisper, it said, "You stayed." I screamed and ran barefoot into the rain, leaving everything behind. I drove to the nearest motel and spent the entire night shaking in fear, unable to sleep. The next morning, I returned with the police, but the hole in the wall had completely disappeared. No damage, no scratches, nothing. The officers thought I was imagining things until one of them climbed into the attic. Halfway up the ladder, his face turned pale. He slowly climbed back down and whispered, "There's somebody up there." Police searched the attic but found nobody. Hidden between the wooden beams, however, they discovered dozens of human teeth and deep claw marks covering the attic floor. I moved out that same day. I thought it was finally over. But last week in my new apartment, I woke up at exactly 2:13 a.m. and heard 3 slow knocks coming from inside my bedroom wall. Knock, knock, knock. After hearing the knocks in my new apartment, I barely slept for days. Every night I kept every light on and pushed furniture against the walls. But at exactly 2:13 a.m., the scratching always returned. One night, I finally gathered enough courage to hit the wall with a hammer. The sound stopped immediately. Then, something on the other side hit back even harder. The next morning, I noticed strange black stains spreading across my bedroom wall. They looked wet, almost like mold, but they smelled horrible, like something rotting. I called maintenance, but the worker refused to enter my room after hearing noises inside the wall. Before leaving, he nervously asked, "Have you been hearing whispers at night too?" That evening, I searched online for the history of my old house. After hours of digging, I found an article from 1987 about a missing family connected to the property. Neighbors claimed they heard screaming and scratching inside the walls before the family vanished. Police found the house empty, except for deep claw marks behind the wallpaper. At exactly 2:13 a.m. that night, my bedroom closet door slowly creaked open by itself. The room temperature dropped instantly. Then I heard crawling inside the ceiling again, moving directly toward the closet. Suddenly, a voice whispered from the darkness, "You brought us with you." The black stain on the wall began spreading faster, like something underneath was moving. I ran out of the apartment and spent the night in my car. But just before sunrise, I looked up toward my apartment window and froze. A pale figure stood behind the glass, staring down at me. Its long fingers slowly tapped against the window. Knock, knock, knock. Then the lights inside my apartment suddenly turned off one by one.
The next day, I asked the apartment manager if anyone else had lived in my unit before me. He went silent for a moment, then admitted something horrifying. 3 tenants had disappeared from that same apartment over the last 5 years. Every single one reported hearing noises inside the walls before vanishing without explanation. That night, I decided to record everything. I placed cameras around my bedroom and waited. At 2:13 a.m., all the cameras suddenly glitched with static. The knocking returned louder than ever. Then one of the walls cracked open slightly, just enough for a pair of black eyes to stare through the gap. My camera captured a whisper clearly. "Open the wall." I grabbed my keys and tried to leave, but the apartment door wouldn't open. Something heavy slammed against the other side repeatedly. Boom, boom, boom. Then every light in the apartment exploded at once, throwing sparks into the darkness. I could hear dozens of footsteps running inside the walls surrounding me from every direction. In complete panic, I smashed through the bedroom wall with a fire extinguisher. Behind the drywall was a narrow, hidden tunnel stretching deep into darkness. The air smelled like death, and scattered across the floor were watches, phones, shoes, belongings from missing people. Then far inside the tunnel, I saw multiple pale faces slowly smiling at me. The creatures began crawling toward me unnaturally fast, their bones cracking loudly as they moved.